Imagine this. You're sitting at your desk, scrolling through your phone, maybe watching cat videos, when suddenly, without warning, gravity just stops working. For 10 whole seconds, the force that has been faithfully pinning you, your coffee, your cat, and literally everything else to the ground since the beginning of time takes a quick coffee break. What happens? Well, in short, chaos. And then, after exactly 10 seconds, gravity comes back like nothing ever happened. But in those 10 seconds, the world would become a very strange and very dangerous place. Let's start small. You, sitting in your chair, would suddenly feel weightless. At first, you'd probably think, cool, I'm an astronaut. Except that your chair wouldn't stay with you. Chairs, like all obedient objects, rely on gravity to keep them down. Without it, the chair drifts away while you drift in the opposite direction. And your cat? He's now clawing at the air like a furry little astronaut who very much did not sign up for this mission. Now let's zoom out. Cars driving down the street would suddenly lose all contact with the road. For 10 seconds, every vehicle on Earth would be a flying car, though not the kind anyone dreamed of. Imagine millions of drivers gripping their steering wheels in horror as their cars float, spin, and drift like confused balloons. Airplanes, ironically, would be one of the safest places to be. They already generate lift, and while gravity leaving the chat would send them off their planned course, pilots would at least have the air itself to stabilize them. Until, of course, gravity comes back and every plane instantly loses altitude in a dramatic lurch. Buildings would face their own problems. Most modern architecture is designed with weight in mind. Gravity is literally part of the blueprint. Without it, structural stresses shift in bizarre ways. Nothing would outright explode in 10 seconds, but loose objects? Lamps, books, ceiling tiles, even that dusty box of Christmas decorations in your attic? All of it would lift up and scatter like confetti. If you live in a cluttered house, congratulations. It just became a snow globe of doom. But the real danger comes not from your coffee cup floating off the table. The real danger is momentum. Without gravity, Earth isn't suddenly turned off. The planet is still spinning at over 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. Normally, gravity makes sure you and the air around you stay glued to that spinning ball. Take away gravity, and everything not nailed down, and even some things that are, continues moving in a straight line. All of it will start drifting upward and sideways, following Newton's first law. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon. When gravity comes back 10 seconds later, all those objects don't politely return to their original spots. They come crashing down. Now imagine the oceans. For 10 seconds, entire seas and lakes would swell upward. Not completely. Water is heavy, and inertia keeps most of it hugging the earth. But the surface would ripple like it had been yanked by some invisible hand. Waves would rise, spray would explode into the air, and when gravity returned, all that displaced water would come back down in the form of violent, unpredictable floods. Coastal cities would take the worst hit. Forget a simple tide. This would be a worldwide splash. And then there's the atmosphere. Gravity is what holds it close to Earth. Remove it even for 10 seconds, and the air itself begins to drift upward into space. In 10 seconds, you wouldn't lose all of it, thankfully, but the upper layers of the atmosphere would expand rapidly outward. The sky would briefly darken as light scattered differently, and you might even glimpse stars in broad daylight. Birds would flap helplessly, spinning in confusion, while humans on the ground gasp as their lungs suddenly find the air pressure dropping. 10 seconds later, the atmosphere slams back down, compressing like a giant invisible cushion, and triggering some nasty shock waves. Of course, the chaos doesn't stop at physics. Think about humanity's collective reaction. Phones, cameras, satellites, and every person alive would have just experienced weightlessness together. Twitter would explode. Bro, did gravity just stop? Conspiracy theories would sprout instantly. Governments would panic. Scientists would scramble to explain. And your aunt on Facebook would claim it was aliens. Or worse, Mercury being in retrograde again. But let's say you were clever. Could you prepare for a 10-second gravity outage? Sort of. If you're outside, hold on to something sturdy. If you're inside, avoid anything above your head. And if you're drinking coffee, don't. Because 10 seconds later, that steaming cup is going to reunite with gravity, and it's not landing gracefully. The funny thing is, 10 seconds is both too short and too long. Too short for Earth to lose its atmosphere completely or for humans to float into orbit, but way too long for life to just shrug it off. 10 seconds of zero gravity would be enough to cause billions in property damage, countless injuries, and probably a few world records for most things broken in under half a minute. And when gravity comes back, the world wouldn't look the same. Streets would be littered with wrecked cars, homes flooded, objects smashed to pieces, and people dazed, staring at the sky as if it had betrayed them. Which, in a way, it had. So, what if gravity disappeared for 10 seconds? For us, it would be terrifying, destructive, and unforgettable. For the universe, it would barely notice. Gravity doesn't make mistakes, and if it ever does take a coffee break, let's just hope it's not longer than 10 seconds.